Ms. Aranka Pollák, born in Budapest in 1913. I worked as a factory worker in an armaments plant. From there, the Aerocross took me away on December 1st. On that day, they rounded up very many women and immediately loaded us into railway cars. We traveled for 8 days. At Hegyeshalom, they opened the car and transferred us to a passenger train. The Germans gave us some kind of vegetable dish and butter. Up to then, we had received only once a small piece of bread. At that time, there were already air raids. During the day, the train mostly stood still, and it traveled only at night. We arrived in Ravensbrück in the evening. We were received by machine gun fire. SS women shouted at us. We were terribly afraid. As we entered the camp, women looked out of the barrack windows and asked where we came from. They were girls from Slovakia and Subcarpathian Russia. We smelled the burning smell and believed that they would burn us alive here. They took us into a barrack. For 12 days we slept on the bare floor without beds. At night we were not allowed to go outside to the toilet. There were buckets inside. They soon filled up and overflowed across the whole floor, and we had to lie in that terrible filth. The next day we stood for hours at roll call in knee-deep mud. Later we learned that there really was a crematorium here, but that only those who had already died a natural death were burned. There were 3,000 women in the camp. We had to shovel sand 9 hours every day. We got up at 3 a.m. Then we received a bitter, weak, black coffee. Around 5 p.m., we were given food, turnip soup and 150 grams of bread. In the evening, we also received some kind of soup or a piece of cheese. It was very little. We were terribly hungry. Later, we were given beds. 3 to 4 people slept in one bed, and there were 3-tier bunks. Often the top tier collapsed, and those it fell onto died. There was also an infirmary, but there was very little space. Therefore, typhus patients lay in the barracks together with us. One day, a factory owner came who was looking for female workers. All the women had to line up at roll call. He selected 500, including me. Then they took us to the bath and shaved our heads. This bathing and waiting lasted until the next morning. Until then, we had to stand in the bathhouse. Neither lying down nor sitting was allowed. We traveled for 3 days. The food they had given us for the journey we ate on the first day. Afterwards, we went hungry for 2 days. In Pénic, they lodged us in barracks that were already dirty and infested with lice from the previous prisoners. We had to lie on worn-out, louse-infested straw. Within moments, we were covered with thousands of lice. We worked in a factory producing aircraft parts, 8 hours a day. However, the factory was 4 kilometers from the camp. We had to cover this distance at a run because the SS drove us on and beat us. In the factory, the foremen were well disposed. If they could, they brought us something to eat. They were communists. Because of the poor nutrition, many developed boils and skin diseases. I had a carbuncle on my head. They cut it open without anesthesia. I was in constant pain, and my heart also grew weaker. I was very weak, short of breath, feverish. Yet they still drove me to work. When I collapsed from weakness against a wall, an SS man struck my freshly shaven, sore head with full force. On April 13, 1945, we no longer received any bread at all, only a quarter-liter of turnip juice. We were in a dreadful condition. In winter, my foot had been frostbitten, and by then it was festering. They wanted to take me along on foot, but I said I could not walk. I did not care if they might shoot me. After that, the SS men continued on with those who were marching. Some of the sick from the infirmary were taken away on a wagon, but I no longer climbed onto it. Together with a friend, I remained there for 2 days, without food and without water. On the third day, I pulled myself up and crawled on all fours down into the yard. Just then, American tanks drove in. When I said that I had not eaten for 3 days, they threw me biscuits, chocolate, and all kinds of food.